Liz, you can come down.
Well, I'm like, do I have to, like, is there a name tag?
No.
And they'll think
Oh,
I'm
maybe
Greg?
there is.
No, I'm okay. I'm coming down. 'Cause I kind of feel like my mom.
Yeah, we want you over here.
Yeah.
Come in tomorrow morning. Come in tomorrow morning.
Yes, I am.
Public hearing.
Thanks, Kim.
Well, if I make it to the pond.
So, but you know, I told my golf friends I wouldn't be there Thursday morning because they had hardboard and they about disowned me. They said,
Let me know.
I'll let you
Yeah.
know.
Let me know. We'll get some cover. I'll cover it for you.
Well, I'm glad, if it makes you feel better, I'm glad you're gonna be there, because I have to
We
leave.
have 2 weeks off. I gotta go and do my other job.
and Rita won't be
Run
there.
a trailer.
Yeah, Rita won't be there.
It's okay.
For you.
It is good for me.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
need
show
to
you
work.
on the calendar for June. See, I get back on the 26th, and so I'll be here on the 28th. In July, it's I'm not wasn't going to be gone. August, I'm going on the 29th. That's the 5th.
Oh, yeah, you're so, you're,
Yeah, and September, I think I'm good.
good.
I've missed the one I'm good at. Well, unless my friends tell me I need to go golf.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really razzed me this morning.
Oh, I'll bet they will. For that. That's one of the most boring ones.
Is it gonna be?
It's every other.
So now we don't have to get to July.
Well, it's so quiet. Maybe we ought to get started. Well, we would like to welcome you all to our City Council meeting tonight. We appreciate those who are in attendance for a variety of reasons. We're grateful for citizens who do come. It means an awful lot to us to have you come, so we appreciate it. We'd especially like to welcome any students or scouts that are here. And are there any here that are here for school assignments or scout assignments? Raise your hands up. Okay, we've got some. Okay. I'm going to invite you. You can come sit up here with us. Would you like to come sit up here with us? All right. Sounds good. All right. But if you raise your hand, you're so welcome to come up here. And you get to see what we see from this side. So great. Well, we welcome you here. Seriously, if you do have questions about something that goes on here, you're welcome to raise your hand because we want to help you with your assignment and answer questions for you. So, okay, we'll begin by invocation. Councilman Crandall will give our invocation, then we'll ask Councilman Snelson if he'll give us the pledge.
Okay, thank you. Our dear Father in heaven, we are so grateful that we can be gathered here tonight in the City Council meeting. We are so grateful for the opportunity to govern ourselves and for the thought and the sacrifices that have gone into this freedom that we have. We are grateful for the opportunity to recognize our outstanding citizens and what they add to our community and our overall quality of life. We are grateful for thee and for this beautiful community that we love and enjoy, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Would everyone please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we've had a public display of this meeting's agenda. I need a motion for approval of the agenda tonight.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, great. Okay, If you'd like to speak directly to the city council, we ask you that you fill out a form. Kim has some blank forms over there, and if you just go over and fill those out, there's a time for you to address the city council. It's not a chance for a dialogue, but you're welcome to say or make any presentation for 2 or 3 minutes in front of us. So we appreciate it. We've got a couple of them tonight here, so we appreciate them coming. Okay, Shannon, would you like to come up and we'll do the mayor's awards? Are we okay? That's great. That'd be great. While they're coming in, Shannon and I had a chance to go to Cherry Creek Elementary School today, and we made a mayor's presentation to the whole school, all 400 students. And they have quite a group, and they were kind of put to the challenge of collecting food. And it started out as kind of a small thing, but they collected 1,900 pounds of food, which is pretty amazing for an elementary school. So we really compliment them and their efforts. So it was fun.
It was. They
fun
said Tabitha's Way representative Mariella said that, Mariella, she said that they started out with just 2 barrels at the school, then they filled those, and then they filled them again. So 21 barrels of food with overflowing. So they said that will help about 200 families in our community that are needing food assistance right now. So that was super exciting. They've never had a school respond in that manner, so that's why they nominated Cherry Creek Elementary for the Mayor's Youth Award. So really fun.
It was great.
All right, so I'm going to turn around because we just had one of our students who was nominated, not here, but I wanted to make sure. Mr. Fox, not here. Okay, so we are going to go ahead into our Mayor's Youth Award, and like Mayor Packard said, this is a great time. We ask people in our community to look out for students and children and anybody in our community that are doing great positive things. And Reagan Academy rose to the occasion, and they nominated 6 wonderful students tonight. It looks like we might be missing one, so we're going to invite them to come in June. But we are going to invite, and I told Miwa she was second on the list, but she's actually going to get bumped to first. Is that okay? And she looks beautiful tonight, so we are going to invite her to come forward. She's going to be our example here, if that's okay. Miwa, do you want to come right up here? I'm going to have you just stand right here, if that's okay, all right? Turn around. And then, Mayor, if you want to come down and present these certificates. We loaded these bags extra heavy tonight, so I will leave it up to you if you want to have the students try to balance those, or we can hand them out in the very end. So, okay, so I'm going to read her nomination. So Miwa Figueros, her parents are Derek and Nancy, and she's in 5th grade. And, let's see, I am so sorry. You're right, that is not. See? You could have got 2 of them. Here you go. Thank you. Yes, she knows how to read. All right, so she's in 5th grade, and she was nominated by Melissa Jarrett. And this is what her teacher says. Miwa is very inspiring student and peer. She consistently puts forth her best effort in all her work, both in class and within her extracurricular activities. So, Miwa, these are all the great things about you. So, she is the first student to offer help to those around her, including her teachers and peers. She remains a loyal friend to everyone in her grade and is consistently a force for good, encouraging and uplifting her classmates. The greatest thing about Miwa is her smile. Let's see, as big as you can. She comes each day with a positive outlook that motivates us all to try a little harder and to do a little better. Miwa is destined for greatness, and we are so grateful she is a part of our school community. So we can have a big round of applause for Miwa, if that's okay. I'm going to have you stand right here, Miwa, right in front of Mrs. John Penrod, our city attorney. He's not as scary as he looks. We'll give those fun gifts at the very end because they're a little hard to handle in those bags. Okay, Bentley, our handsome young man, is going to come forward. And his parents are Amy and Brian Clark, and he's in 3rd grade. He was nominated by Angel Russin. And she says, Bentley has shown outstanding achievement. He is willing to help and support his classmates when they get stuck on a problem. He is happy to roll with whatever comes up in class. Even if it is a test or an assignment the rest of the class will complain about, he doesn't. He is excited about learning challenges that come his way. So big round of applause for Bentley. Okay, Olivia Magleby, if you would please come forward. Olivia's parents are Scott and Amy, and she's in 7th grade, and she was nominated by Dina Plant, and this is what she says. Olivia is a positive force for good. She is always looking for ways to lift others and make improvements to herself. She is very helpful in class. She is positive and encouraging to others. Is it embarrassing you? She's a rock star up here. She follows instructions and guides others by example. Olivia has a "we can do it" attitude, which spreads to those around her. She is a great student. She is positive and hardworking. She gives her all and is willing to make sacrifices to do her best. She will work with anyone and tries to include everyone. She is outgoing and personable. She is always cheerful and good-natured. Olivia is the epitome of what this word represents. So Olivia Magleby. All right. Caitlin Herker. I want to make sure her family was able to come in. Did they? All right. Okay, Caitlin. Caitlin's parents are Chris and Tammy, and she's in 6th grade at Reagan Academy, and her nominator is Tessa Marchant, and she says, Caitlin is an incredible hard worker and encourages others to be positive and to do their best. She is willing to work with anyone, whether that person is her friend or not. She is friendly to everyone she talks to and makes us all feel so good. I am frequently impressed by Caitlin and how diligent and kind she is. So Caitlin Herker, big round of applause. All right, now we're gonna squeeze out of the way here and. It is everybody, yes.
Parents are welcome to come up too.
Bentley, you don't have a name if it's backwards. Okay, parents, are you good, or do you need them to hold it for just a second? Good, okay. All right, so I'm gonna walk you right over here, and we're gonna pick up your bags, and then I told them, Mayor, that they are welcome to stay, but they're also welcome to go, so it's up to them and their parents. So that one would be the last one that we read in, so that would be Caitlin's.
Talk to Stacy.
Well, Bentley, you were so well dressed. You were a chick magnet. I mean, all the girls they were over there. There was. Yeah. Oh, there we go. I always like that. Okay. Okay. Well, we'd like to have a presentation with the Springville Art City Days Rodeo royalty. So we'll turn the time over to them. Oh, wow. Oh, how
Thank you, man.
fun.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
That gets us into right through the opening.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
You got
Would you like to say anything publicly? Yes. Okay, please.
Hello, my name is Miriam Brophy, and my parents are Dan and Esther Brophy, and we have an alfalfa and a cattle farm in West Mountain, and I currently live in Mapleton. I'm a senior from Maple Mountain High School, and I'm graduating next week.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. On behalf of Art City Days Rodeo Committee, we invite you to join to our rodeo on June 4th. Thank you so much.
I'll be there. I'll be there. And I want to know, I think, is it a lamb ride or what is it called?
Oh, yes, you're talking about mutton busting.
Yeah, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure I had it correctly.
Yeah.
But I'm going to challenge any city council person to do the mutton
You have to
busting.
be a kid. I think you have to be a kid.
I know that. I'm very much aware of this. I know exactly what I'm asking, so I just want to see if you can actually dare do it. I didn't say I was going to do it. No, yes. Well, some are not mentally aid, and so does that qualify?
I have a better challenge for you.
Yeah. Oh dear. I've walked myself into a terrible spot. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Sydney Nielsen. I'm 14 years old, and my parents are Todd and Nicole Nielsen. I live in Mapleton, and I'm currently enrolled in FFA and 4-H. I'm showing a show pig, auctioning off the show pig, and training him. I am also so into horses, and they are my whole life.
That's wonderful. I think we know your mother, so thank you.
Hi, my name is Kyla Levenger. I'm the second attendant for the Art City Days Rodeo. I am 16 years old and I currently go to Spanish Fork High School. I'm on the FFA officer team and I show show goats and I raise hedgehogs. So, and I'm glad to be here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Natalie Hetzel. I am 11 years old. I live in Springville, Utah, and my parents are Shauna Keith and Andrew Hetzel. I enjoy riding horses, playing soccer and volleyball, and dancing.
Oh, excellent.
Very good.
That's wonderful. Thank you so very much. I think Patrick would like to get a picture of you.
Mayor, can we ask a question?
Yes.
One of the attendants that's raising the pig, and you said that someone said they were training the pig. I'm just curious, what are you training these pigs to do?
We train them to hold their heads up really high in the air and walk around.
Oh,
On
okay.
command. Yeah.
Act really smart, huh? Some pig. Yeah. Wilbur.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Well done.
I didn't know you could
That's
train a
good.
pig.
Aren't they great?
They are. It's wonderful.
And as far as my challenge,
Oh.
I challenge all of you to come down before the rodeo and meet the rodeo star.
Oh, excellent.
Okay.
So I'll be there all day. Feel free to come.
Who's providing the rodeo stock?
His name is Brady Birmingham. He lives in Mapleton, Utah. He is the proprietor of Rocky B Rodeos.
Excellent.
Okay.
I did a lot of work with Bar T Rodeo. I think we talked about that. Yes. Yep. Swanee and Berta. Wonderful. Now, what time would be appropriate to come down?
Anytime. I'm there all day.
Okay, sounds good.
Super scheduled, and then grand entry starts at 7.
And you want us there at 6:30, right? Okay.
If you are willing to participate.
Okay,
Sure.
sounds good. Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks, Cammie. That's cool.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Okay,
Thank you
Reed.
for the little gifts, too. That's
Yes,
really neat.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wow,
Cookies.
they're not going to last very long.
I know.
Okay, Rita,
Well,
thank you.
that's our campaign process that we do. And then we go along the next. I'm here for council meeting.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. We are going to recognize tonight the hard work of our Arts Commission members. Of course, you know that there have been some changes in the structuring of the arts with several other things going on in the city. But I want to invite, oh, they're here, they're behind me.
We know how to clear a room.
So with us tonight, we have Debbie Allred and Daryl Tucker. We're missing a couple who had other engagements, but I just want to say the years working with the Arts Commission, that's Art City, right? They've represented us and the various arts activities, and although they each have areas of specialty, Debbie in dance and Daryl in theater, but they have been in there working for the total arts picture of Springville. And it's just been really fun to look at the earliest charter, really, and the Arts Commission when it was created through National Endowment for the Arts, something that little Springville went out and did, and that we've had this kind of support for so long. They were terming out. We're still having Jenny Ackerson, who will be helping us with a concert and will be recognized later. And then Polly Dunn and Julie Alborn could not be with us tonight, but I'd like to recognize them and give them a little thank you and remembrance of their time serving on the Arts Commission for Springville.
Patrice Boland was
Oh, Patrice and Kim Stinson are working now with the Park Committee.
So's Polly.
And Polly, so in a different
May I
capacity.
just give
Please.
a brief comment here?
Yes.
It's all positive.
No, you're totally good, Daryl.
Thank you. 98 years ago, on the 4th of July in 1924, Cyrus Dallin came back to Springville to dedicate the statue that we have out here for the soldiers, the Soldiers Memorial, where they have the fountain. And he spoke, and Governor Mabee, at the time, George Mabee, or Charles, excuse me, Charles Mabee, gave a talk, and this is what he had to say. Said, it says Governor Charles R. Mabee in his eulogy of the men who fought and died for their country said, this is from the Springville Herald, by the way, so, you know, this is real news. It's not fake news. Mothers and fathers of these glorious dead soldiers of this war and all wars in which the nation has participated, citizens of the greatest nation in the world, it is fitting that we have assembled in Springville, the art city of this state. That's the first time I have seen a reference for Art City, and it came in 1924 and was delivered by the governor himself. Springville is the greatest art center of any city of its size in the entire world. And I don't know if that still holds true, but in my mind and my heart, it does. So he says, you are no more proud of it than I am. So that, I thought, was something I'd like to share with you, because we do have that history, and it's almost a centennial that we'll have here in a couple of years to have the centennial of Springville being named the Art City. You know, the Chamber of Commerce and other people have picked up that thread and have carried it on, but it is our responsibility, the citizens of today, the mayor and the council, and all the people in the administration, it's our responsibility to carry on the fight to preserve Springville as the art city of Utah. And so, you know, times change, changes are made. Hopefully they're toward progress. And I'm really excited about the PAR Commission and the funds that will be generated through those taxes and how they might be used to promote the arts in Springville. So I commend you all for your service. It's been a great honor and privilege to serve on the Arts Commission for these many years, and to pick up the gauntlet from Delora Bertelson and other people. And by the way, Mayor Packard, I wanted to also make mention, during this celebration, or during this commemoration, the dedication of that monument, it was a Julia Packard who was kind of leading the way with that. So it's an ancestor of yours, I'm sure.
Great-grandma.
Great-grandma. So anyway, she was instrumental in making sure that the funds were raised and things happened so that we could have that monument out there. And we have so many other treasures in the Statues to Live By program, which has been kind of under the auspices of the Arts Commission. I hope that carries on. I don't know in what way, shape, or form that might be handled, but we have a great selection of art along our main street, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that we have promoted that. And all of the other arts programs, we have some great things. I hope that everybody plans on attending the Folk Fest that they're going to finally have again. Come the first night, I'm emceeing.
So, at any rate, thank you very much for all you do and for supporting Springville, and carry on the fight to keep Springville Utah's art city.
Thank you,
Thank
Darrell.
you.
Can we just say, because a lot of us know these people, and they've been around for a long time helping with a lot of stuff, and you would have the opinion from this, what you said, that you're done, and there's no intent that you're gone, and you yeah, just, I mean, yeah.
On the board at the senior center.
Yeah.
Come on over there. We got lots of good
Well,
stuff for you.
and we still expect you to be right in line for these art grants with the same way,
I'll be keeping an eye on you all.
yeah. Well, no, we fully expect that and want you to be. So just, it's not, you're not gone. It's
Well,
just
just
that one face.
also from the city is that, as you think about the rich heritage and the foundation that you've built for so many years, I didn't have a chance to talk with you, Deborah, but I talked to Darrell, and he and I grew up together, and we reminisced, and then I asked him, I said, well, how many years you've been doing this? How many years you've been involved in it? And I'm sure it's not any different with you, and it's just been so many years that you've worked on this foundation, and our hope is that it's going to be nothing but even better as you've built this foundation, that we can continue to accelerate and do what we need to do. So you've made us all as citizens very, very proud of what you've done, and we want you to know how grateful we deeply are for what you've done. And you're welcome to call anytime and let us know, or anybody on the park committee know, what some of your thoughts and feelings are. Our intent is to do good, and I know that's your intent too. So thank you. Appreciate it.
I want to just say,
For every meeting I've ever been to, she's been there.
yeah, Debbie's
you go.
great.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Debbie's great. I was Teddy Roosevelt in 1975 in Arsenic and Old Lace, right in this building. So it's been around for a long time. Mr. Schreier and the lady from Brookside, Lawrence, Mrs. Lawrence. They were the old. Yeah, they were the old ladies in Arsenic and Old Lace that were killing.
I was in Once Upon a Grasshopper. Down here. Well, not here.
I was stagehands on Fiddler on the Roof.
That's so fitting.
Yeah. Well, that gives us a lot of latitude, Darrell. I just want you to know. Yeah, I would. Okay, wonderful. Okay, now we can move into the public comment section. I have two of them here, one from an R.D. Boardman and also from an Andrew Weekly. So, Mr. Boardman, if you'd like to come up, we'd appreciate it. And if you wouldn't mind taking 3 or 4 minutes and just making what statements you'd like to. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for letting me be here. I do have some handouts. Is it okay to
yep,
offer those
you bet.
up?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for the email the other day too.
Great. You're welcome. Thanks for responding.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Mr. Nielsen is referring to the email I sent to all of you regarding this subject, which is, I think, like an important one. So I'm going to read this statement that I have kind of prepared, and then if there's any questions.
Yep.
So my name is R.D. Boardman. I'm a resident of Springville and work at Brigham Young University as a licensed psychologist. On Thursday morning, May 5th, an anti-Semitic symbol and white supremacy graffiti was found in prominent visible spaces in southern Springville in the area where I live. I've included the following photos of these hate symbols for your review. Most of these are what you've seen before in your email. The Anti-Defamation League, ADL, which is an organization for leading organization in the nation for tracking anti-hate and hate organizations, has stated the following regarding this symbol that you're seeing before us. It's this hatchet-like symbol. It says the fasces came to be associated with right-wing extremism, and beginning in the late 2000s, more American white supremacists turned to these fascist symbols, possibly because it did not have the strong native connotation of the swastika. So here's some other examples by other groups, white supremacy groups that use this symbol, which is what was found, one of the predominant symbols found in our community. The eagle stencil with the words Patriot Front on it is one of the crests of the Patriot Front white supremacy group, who stands for the following. And this is one of their statements from their chats, is the biggest threat to America right now is Jewry because of their overall subversion, browning of America, race-mixing porn and drug pushing, etc. Additionally, Patriot Front is a white supremacist group whose members maintain that their ancestors conquered America and bequeathed it to them and no one else. Patriot Front justifies its ideology of hate and intolerance under the guise of perversing the ethnic and cultural origins of its members' European ancestors. Patriot Front spreads its hateful propaganda via the internet by distributing banners, flyers, posters, and stickers. And in 2020, Patriot Front transitioned from using explicit anti-Semitic and white supremacist language in its propaganda to a more coverted, bigoted language, promoting a form of patriotism that emboldens white supremacy, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, and fascism. So here's kind of the timeline I just want to go over with you all since we talked in that email last. I emailed the City Council, the Mayor, and the Chief of Police on May 9th, 5 days after these hate symbols appeared and had not been removed. I received sympathetic emails from 2 council members and the Chief of Police the same day. I was assured that swift action would be taken to remove these from our community. Research shows that the longer such hate symbols are visible, the more emboldened those that spread hate are continuing such practices. One of the symbols was painted over and cleaned up at the power plant at 1600 South around May 13th. I emailed the Chief Hate, thanking him for his quick response in addressing one of the sites and asked when the others would be removed. I received no response after that. The fascist symbols, the Patriot Eagle recruiting tag, and the blatant anti-Semitic tag were still for all to see until yesterday when all but one were covered. It's unknown to me if these were the work of a police department or some fed-up citizen in having such hate having their place here in the community. There's still one white supremacist tag in my neighborhood as of today. As I drove by, it's the last picture posted here on the front. So I'm concerned about the slowness of the response from the city to address this. If this was a swastika or an angel Moroni with an X through it, would there have been a different response? I realize that 8% of our city is white according to the latest census data, and the council and mayor appear to be all white, and our police department is majority white, so perhaps one might conclude that this may not directly matter to you or to them. But for the 20% who are not white, to see and know that there is a white supremacy presence here, and there's a lack of urgent response to deal with it, sends a clear message, perhaps, of who and what are the priorities are here in Springville, and who are not a priority. With the recent racist shootings happening in Buffalo, New York, and in Laguna Woods, California this past week, it's a stark and dark reminder that racism is alive and well and must be dealt with quickly and consistently before such atrocities happen here in Springville. President Biden stated today that the white supremacy is a poison. It's a poison running through our body politic, adding that our silence is complicitory. So I encourage the mayor, the council, the Springville Police Department to be more diligent and vigilant in rooting out white supremacy in our community by acting promptly, consistently, and urgently when any and all types of hate infiltrate our city. Please read up and look for what these symbols are, these groups are, because they're here. They're here in our community. Let us make it as safe as possible for all of our BIPOC and diverse religious brothers and sisters who live and pass through Springville to feel safe, loved, wanted, defended, and protected. I believe our city leaders and police are well-intentioned, but good intentions don't save lives and create safety. Action does. So just in closing, thank you for your time. I'm happy to have any future conversations with any of you in the future as I want to support our community and use our leaders. And so respectfully, me. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Boardman, can I just ask a question here?
Yes,
so you mentioned that everything that you had seen had been painted over except one.
Correct.
And is that is that one that's left? Is that on city property?
Yes, it's one of the power plant poles in my community.
Okay.
And just so you're aware, the painting, the first picture is on the Rio Grande Railroad, and there's a white. It's been painted white over, so it's not like blending into the community. But some maybe a citizen just painted those, so I don't think that was necessarily done by us, but I can't confirm that. So.
Okay, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I just add one comment? I know when we used to have these on the schools, I had a phone number that I could call. It was called Graffiti Busters. I don't know if they still exist, but they would be out the day we would call them. I kind of assumed we were going to...
Teens Against Graffiti is still active. That's through the county tag group, and we pay for that service, if you will, and they come out quickly. I know, and John may have a little more information, I know I'm part of this. The police were needing to do some investigation on it, actually take some pictures and things. I'm not sure how that's progressing, and Chief Hate's actually not in here tonight.
Yeah, they did do an investigation. I think they've even followed up with Mr. Boardman.
Yeah, they called me the day of saying that we're going to take it down the next day, but it still hasn't been done.
Yeah, and then the tag organization's still out there. We haven't used them for a while, and I know the chief was trying to track them down. Some of this infrastructure isn't the city's, and so we were trying to track down the people whose it was before we went and did something with it. And so they are actively trying to take care of it and get it done. Even these power poles, even though they're on city property, are technically, I think, Rocky Mountain power poles. And so we're trying to both do what we should as a city, but also be respectful to the people whose property it is as well. So we're doing both.
And this really isn't open for conversation, but, as you see things or hear things, you just need to let us know. Because we don't know, for example, when I got your email, I passed that immediately on to the staff to let them know and to follow up on it. And that's when you got Chief Hate's response. So if things don't happen, you just need to let us know so that we can continue to follow up and find out what's going on. Because we have as much interest in you. I mean, your interests and our interests are no different. And we don't have any tolerance for any of this kind of stuff. So anyway, we appreciate you. Thank you very much for
Thank you,
coming.
Mayor.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you
it.
betcha. Okay, Andrew?
Hi.
Hi.
So, I just wanted to talk really quickly. I'm a senior in high school. I go to Springville, and I'm here for a government class project that I'm doing. And kind of what it is, we try to get something changed in our community to make it safer or something like that. And so what me and my buddy here, our group project is to try to get the four-way stop on the high school road at 800 South and 800 East changed into a two-way stop sign. And kind of the reasoning behind that, I'm trying to help the community, especially my fellow classmates, who a lot of them are new drivers and they're at high risk for crashing. And after school, when everybody's leaving, that stop sign gets really backed up, multiple blocks, and that adds time onto travel, and going bumper to bumper is really dangerous for new drivers because it requires a little bit of skill. So my goal is just to change that four-way stop sign on the high school road on 800 South and 800 East, change it into a two-way stop sign to help the flow of traffic, especially after school hours. So some questions that might arise is, how is it safer for drivers to just drive through that intersection instead of stopping at that intersection? And what we kind of gathered, we kind of monitored that intersection from 215 to 245, and we found that there's an 8-to-1 ratio of those cars that get backed up on the high school road compared to the other way. And so I've talked to a lot of friends, and anytime they get to that stop sign, it's kind of just like stop and go, because there's rarely anyone going in the other direction. So by taking out that stop sign, it can increase awareness for the people that are coming onto the high school road, and also awareness for the people that are already driving on it. And so the last thing I wanted to say is that we were thinking about proposing the idea of a roundabout, because it's kind of a curvy road, or a stoplight or something like that. But we were kind of leaning toward the two-way stop sign because it's the cheapest option. There's very little labor to do, and you don't have to change the road at all. So literally just to take out those two stop signs would fix that problem. So that's what I have.
Wonderful.
Do you guys have any questions for me?
No, we appreciate it. Again, this is good information for us. And so there's Brad Stapley in the back. You may want to catch him, and he kind of oversees this sort of thing, and he can talk one side and the other as to kind of why things are the way they are and maybe how to improve them. So, yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we appreciate your courage for getting up here. That's more than anything.
Yeah, they get to sit
You
there
get an
and
A
watch
plus. Okay, thank you. Before we approve the consent agenda, I just wanted to mention kind of what the consent agenda is and why it is what it is. The consent agenda is designed to move the meeting along in a way to where things that don't need to be discussed aren't discussed. When we have the meeting, the work meeting before, we review the consent agenda, and anyone in the city council, by just their own individual asking, can remove any item from the consent agenda and say, I want to discuss this further. Those items that are on the consent agenda, aside from the minutes that are there every time, have been items that have been discussed in work meetings and in council meetings, and they're to a point to where the decision principally has been made and all the discussion's been done publicly, so that people are very much aware of what's going on. So if you think of a consent agenda, some people have said, well, there's no discussion on those items. Well, maybe not on the night the vote for the consent agenda happens, but there have been at least one, if not multiple, discussions prior to public meetings in which the things have been discussed. So don't think the consent agenda, when I call for a vote on the consent agenda, if these things have not been, that these things have certainly been reviewed and vetted out appropriately. So any other comments from the city council about it? Okay, great. All right, you have some items on the consent agenda. Any questions about them?
I'll make a motion.
I did have one question.
Please.
And I didn't see it till we were too late. But Chief Clinton, is there a map available of the fire restriction area? Because there's been some areas that were on it and off of it, and I wanted to make sure that the south area by Clyde Park was still on that fire
it's
restriction.
not, because the people moved.
That we're burning the hill down?
Yes. I'm not kidding you.
Well,
Twice, by the way, just twice, just so you know.
I still.
On the same night. Yeah. That was a previous discussion 2 years ago, or
Okay.
yeah, to where we discussed it
Well, I've
and
been
we
gone for
removed it.
4
yeah.
years, so. But
Yeah, yeah.
There is a map, and it's
Okay.
pretty
I have one friend that won't be happy about that, but
Well,
whose house was it?
I think we should just have fireworks in December for Christmas and New Year's.
that'd be good.
I mean, it's a good time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with that, then I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Okay. Second.
I'll second.
Okay, it's a roll call vote because we've got some resolutions on there. Liz,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Craig is excused. I forgot to mention he's excused tonight, so. Okay, we are here for, Stacy, a public hearing for consideration of the ordinance and adoption of the Parks and Trails Master Plan, including the IFFP and the IFA, which in essence is the impact fee, so.
We're just getting everything set up. It'll take us 2 seconds.
Okay,
We'll have
sure.
everybody involved.
Okay, that'd be great.
While he's doing that, I just want to thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, this has been quite a process, and there's been several meetings before getting here tonight. We've met with our PAR Board, our Planning Commission, also with you, and had presentations from our consultants, and they're here virtually tonight. We're just getting that set up so they can do a recap of what we've talked about in the past, and just a reminder of those things. We're going to have Sam Taylor speak with us just about our parks, recreation, trails, and open space master plan, and that'll be followed by Fred Philpott, and he will be talking about our impact fee analysis and our impact fee facilities plan. So in just a second, we'll get everything going, and you'll be able to hear from them. And then after they have had a chance to speak with you, and if you have any questions for them, they will be available to answer those questions. And then John Penrod will finish up the discussion and just kind of a reminder of what we've talked about in the past. Thanks, Stacy. Thank you. And thanks for your patience.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and put you into the system. Thank you.
Sam, if you're ready, we'll have you go first.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for having us tonight. My name is Sam Taylor from Landmark Design. I'm covering for Lisa Benson. She unfortunately was pulled away to another community tonight for another presentation. That's how it goes in our line of work. Lots of communities all on the same night. So, but I've been involved in this plan most of the way, so I should be able to hopefully do this justice tonight. So, this is a quick overview of the Parks, Recreation, Trails, and Open Space Master Plan. This is the final draft that we are submitting to you for adoption here. And I'll get started. I'm going to go through just a quick overview of the plan and its contents for the benefit of the public and anyone else who's unfamiliar with it. And we'll just jump into it. The plan is composed of 7 chapters. There's an introduction, which really talks about demographics and the thought that goes into, the overall process. Chapter 2 covers the planning process and the public involvement that was done in preparing this plan. And then the 3, 4, 5, and 6 cover the different topics of the plan, the meat and potatoes of it, and concludes with the 7th chapter, which is implementation, how the plan can be implemented strategically. Looking at the city's growth, you're on an upward trajectory to potentially double almost by the time you reach build out in around 2050. So with that's a lot of growth. What do you need for a community? Time you're also but you're also adding a lot of children. So there's just a lot of different demographic forces all around that are building this case for additional parks and the need for additional acreage as you continue to grow. And I'll get into details of that. The process that we have undergone during this project, I've had a whole slew of different things we've used, tools that we've utilized to gather input from the public. We've had an advisory committee that has worked with us and went us through, composed of staff and residents. We had a public scope meeting where we collected information from the public. And we also had an online component to this process, both via the web page for the project and Bang the Table, which is an engagement platform which collects data and various tools for the public to submit their comments. Also conducted was a statistically valid survey by Y2 Analytics, which was able to produce some really fantastic data to guide the direction of this plan. So all that kind of coalesced in developing the draft plan. Since the first draft was put together, it's continually been refined, worked further with the advisory committee, the leadership, and so it's brought us to where we are right now with the final. A look at that community survey that was done too. There the keystone of involved is it a lot of statistical significance. It has less than 3% margin of error. So,
hey, Sam? Sam?
Yep.
You're starting to break
Yes.
up. here. Can you, I don't know what's going on your end, but we're having a tough time all of a sudden hearing you. Can you?
If he's on speaker, get him on a regular phone.
Yeah, are you on a regular phone or a speaker?
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I could just hear that pretty well. Yes, we could.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. So, yeah, today we had 1,300 survey respondents and, 3% margin of error. So we consider this a very accurate, very important keystone of the public input that we received in the beginning of the process. Some of the major outcomes of that community survey were that parks and open spaces are a big community priority. And while 79% of the residents say that the city's currently providing adequate opportunities, a lot of the rest of the survey indicated that people would still be interested in seeing additional facilities come to fruition. The city continue to prioritize that. The Clyde Rec Center is frequently used, but people are still going out of town for other recreational needs. So that kind of highlights a need for additional facilities within the city. And as far as looking at the park system and their expansion, it seems that people are, 2/3 of residents were preferring smaller parks over large regional parks. And then this finally here on the screen, after, getting to folks what a par tax would be, most folks supported that, and that went on to actually be an important component of getting tax approved in Springville following survey. So to after the meat of that, looked at your system, what you have on the ground in quite a bit of detail. An entire conditions assessment report of each park that was put together and included in the mix.
Hey, Sam. Sam, you're starting to break up again in just a little bit.
I feel like there must be some sort of interference between my phone and the Wi-Fi. I'm not sure.
Well, you're sounding good now.
Okay. I'm going to move my chair back from the computer, see if that helps the signal. Okay. So here on the map, we've got your existing parks, and we got quite a few within the city, which is fantastic. We actually have an excellent park system, in my opinion, compared to many we've seen in the state. I mentioned we did amenities parks, did full condition of how all these are doing as well, and so that's all tabulated in this chapter. And look at your park system angles to identify as far as planning. The first is what we call the level of service. This is different than the level Fred will be presenting with Impact V, but in terms of park planning, what that means is it's the acreage of parks per your current population times 1,000. So what we're looking for is, how many acres of parks per 1,000 people do you have on the ground now? And based on your population growth in the future, how many acres will you need per 1,000 people to carry forward? As you can see here, we've broken out your park system into different types based on primarily. So, or if they have a wider draw, then they get a higher classification. So the Hobble Creek Canyon parks are considered regional because they have a wider draw than, say, some of the neighborhood parks do. So you can see that spread here in the different categories. And it all totals up to be 180 acres of parkland that have an important recreational component in your community. So when you take that math population, you end up with a level served 5.11 acres, which is truly, it is above many communities on the Wasatch Front. So pat on the back to Springville for that. Looking forward, and parks that are coming on or have near-term future development, and we've been looking at those and have included them in our analysis here. This map shows the service areas, and this is the other angle that we look at your park system. And each of the buffers around each of those parks represents a service area of walking or driving distance from that park, and how reasonably a neighborhood is served by that park. So as you can see, many of the residential neighborhoods have access to a park within walking distance or at least driving distance. But there are some areas of the community, the areas in yellow on this map, which either have existing or will soon have existing residential neighborhoods, but are not currently served by a park. So looking forward at the system, this is an important component of park planning. Will be filling these gaps and making sure that everyone has a park within a short distance of their home. We look at where those might go and make some recommendations based on both the level of service and the distribution of the parks. This map showing the proposed park areas and their service areas is based on those two different angles that we look at. So we're proposing a couple of larger parks to fill those gap areas, as well as a couple of smaller parks throughout the city. Now, as the population increases, it commonly causes the level of service to decrease. But as determined as as we worked with the advisory committee and city staff, it was determined that we wanted to kind of maintain roughly the same level of service that you have right now. So we identified 5 acres per 1,000 people as the goal. And that's honestly a great level of service, especially considering you have such a wonderful natural amenity right in your backyard with Hobble Creek Canyon. So I think that's going to bode very well for your community in a robust park system combined with that natural space. And so looking forward, how do we can keep this level of service up? Well, adding more acreage, of course. Currently, you've got the 180 acres on the ground right now, and if we look at your 23 projected population, you're going to need an additional 60 acres to that. And so the city currently owns 73 acres of parkland in reserve, which is fantastic. I mean, that's already one of the biggest hurdles is acquiring that land. So to meet your needs as a population by 2030, it's just developing that land. There's no acquisition to be had. And you can see the list of 10 parks, or at least the sites that the city has available to develop looking into the future here. Looking beyond 2030, the build-out year, which we've assigned to 2050, there will need to be an additional 65 acres developed of parkland. Now the city has a few of those acres already acquired, but you'll need to acquire 52 more acres to meet the 5.0 level of service for the 60,000 people that you're anticipating by 2050. So some of those acres will be filled by owns. Others will. The next priority in obtaining additional acreage will be filling those gaps and making sure that every residential neighborhood is served well. And then there's an additional abundant parkland which will determine a future date of the 23 acres there. Right. So the It also applies park standards, each of the park types, and these are, not intended to be binding and strict, but they are intended to serve as a guideline as each new park is brought online or each existing park is evaluated. This should give an idea based on the size of that park and its classification, what sort of amenities should we expect to see in one of those parks, so that these are giving meaningful recreational needs to the community and are not underserving the community. So this will be useful for staff as they're making evaluations on the needs of different parks. We also identified all the amenities within the park, and those are all tabulated and given their own level of service that is modified from the national standard for how many of each amenity type you should have for your population. We work with the staff to identify a level of service for each amenity type that's appropriate to your city, and weighed each of the amenities against it, and that way we're able to identify whether you have a deficit or a surplus, and where things might need to be filled looking to 2030 and again to 2050. So those analyses are included in the park chapter as well. This concludes with some recommendations on open space, and while we don't really sign analysis to open space or go into any particular detailed recommendation, our general recommendation is that the city should acquire open space when it makes sense, where if it helps expand the parks and trail system, if it's connected to other sites or preserves important lands such as natural open lanes up the canyon or wildlife corridors or along the rivers, those are no-brainer places in which we would definitely recommend that those be preserved, because they can only benefit the community down the road in some fashion or other. For the playthrough recreation and community event, it analyzes what you have currently in terms of your recreation programs and facilities. This is a question taken from the survey that was done by Y2, and as you can see, they were asked, people who took the survey were asked, if you had $100 to spend on improvements to city services, what would you spend it on? And after health and safety, you can see here there's parks and open spaces in second. We've got street stuff taking third place, but then you've also got recreation and trails pretty high up in the list of things still. So taken together with the parks, it's definitely an important part of the city public's desire to have adequate recreational facilities for their needs. There were programs that were requested in the community survey. Those are all found within the plan, and also just requests about the programming and how it might be improved. So these are all within this chapter to guide staff as they're looking to expand in the future and where the needs might be. You also have very robust group of sales events, so those are all accounted for within this chapter. And this is a great bunch of things that really bring the community together. So, in this area, there were other requests, community events that are included here in this chapter that might guide future planning. Chapter 5 looks at the art. They're very strong art city. And right, so there's a great deal of programming there. which should continue to be. And the trails. And this is a map of the existing trail system. There's segments that are different types of trails. Some are regional in nature, where they come from one city and go to another. There's some more local, some are paved, unpaved. So at each of those, and taken. We're referring to the active transportation plan as the real master as it starts going from. That is built off some of the recommendations from the active transportation plan. But really what we're recommending here in the Trails Plan is to defer to that plan and also to prioritize these regional connections. So where there are opportunities to construct segments along the Bonneville shoreline or Hobble Creek, or some of these other creek corridors, those would be probably the most beneficial to as far as increasing connectivity between the open spaces and the community as a whole. When asked in the survey about what improvements would be needed for the trails system, folks resoundingly kind of said, well, we need more linkage, we need more connection. And so taking the segments that you have, the opportunities to connect one segment to another, that would definitely be the best use of funding in trying to complete the system. So looking at Chapter 7, this is the implementation chapter. And here's this question from the survey gets at priorities, and it helps to inform some of the priorities we've outlined in this chapter as far as how do we implement all this. Because there's a lot of great recommendations, and the importance of this chapter is to give the council and staff a guide as they're looking at priorities moving forward. So from what the public has kind of expressed here in this survey, an expansion of the Clyde Recreation Center and an expansion of trails really kind of take the top of the list, as well as upgrading and your existing parks and playgrounds. So those would be obviously high priorities for the community. They would love to see that those existing amenities improved and expanded upon, and then you've got the other things that kind of trail down from there. So here's a summary of the recommendations taken from all these chapters prior to this one. And you can see here, the Parks chapter recommends, developing that acreage that we discussed by 2030 to meet your LOS, as well as to, acquire additional land needed to meet distribution needs, fill those gaps, and also to address any deferred maintenance or accessibility requirements that you've got within the existing system. So this would be the top priorities there. As far as recreation, would be to expand the recreation center when demand calls for it, and also to look at options for replacing the field house. If that is an aging facility, what will need to become of that, and how can that need be met elsewhere that it currently fills. And then
Sam, are you there? I think that's pretty much the entire plan that he's gone over. So I don't know is Fred on here? Okay, Fred, are you on there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, do you want to just go over the IFFP and IFA?
Yes. Sam, if you can hear me, I'll need you just to stop sharing your screen.
think we've lost him completely.
Did we do Zoom? Because we should be able to. There you go.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Alrighty, can you see the presentation?
Yes.
And let me know if I have the same static. I'm getting a little bit of feedback on my end, and I also heard that as Sam was speaking. But
You're actually sounding really good.
okay, perfect. My presentation is quite a bit shorter. We're focusing on the impact fee facilities plan and impact fee analysis that utilize the information that Sam has prepared as part of the master plan. So by statute, there are really two elements that we need to look at for the benefit of the public. There's the impact fee facilities plan, which really identifies the methodology and facilities that are intended to serve new development activity. And the impact fee analysis is the calculation or proportionate share analysis that determines the appropriate fee that can be assessed to development activity. Process-wise, the impact fee requires that we go through certain noticing in advance of beginning this process, which the city has done. And then we presented findings to staff and the city council in a work session. The city has noticed intent for public hearing, and we're here this evening to hold that public hearing, and if there are public comments, to weigh those comments, and then the council has the option to adopt, modify, or reject the impact fees that are presented. What we're sharing represents the maximum allowable impact fee. If an increase is adopted, then there's a 90-day wait period before those fees become effective. Our methodology focuses on these 6 elements, really defining demand as the master plan identified that population growth within the city. We look at the inventory of existing facilities that was provided as part of the master plan initiative. We establish an existing and proposed level of service, and as Sam indicated, we've provided in the report 2 methodologies that look at the master plan cost as identified in the chapters of the master plan, and allocating that cost on a per capita basis. We also look at a level of investment approach which values existing infrastructure, which includes all assets, including all the owned acreage, the undeveloped land, and establishes a level of investment value per capita. And we've compared those 2 variables to illustrate that, again, as Sam had indicated, there's a high level of service in Springville, and it's producing a substantial fee. Once we establish that proposed level of service, we consider the future facilities that are necessary to serve development, the revenue resources that may be needed to finance those improvements, and we conduct that proportionate share analysis. So we've gone through that exercise, and all of the documents have been made available to the public, the IFFP and IFA, and the summary of those, that analysis and those scenarios that I discussed, the level of investment approach and the master plan are found on this slide. The level of investment approach is producing a fee of $8,235 per single-family dwelling unit and $6,286 per multifamily unit. When we look at the master plan level of service and the cost associated with the elements that Sam identified, that produces a slightly higher fee of $8,661 for a single family and $6,611 for a multifamily unit. So a fairly large increase. Again, the level of investment approach is valuing existing assets and allocating that value to existing development to show what that is on a per capita basis, with the intent of having new development maintain that same level of investment moving forward, recognizing that there's some fluctuations with regards to amenities and those types of investments made on park infrastructure, and so it creates a little bit of flexibility to adjust for those or account for those fluctuations. But again, we've provided both scenarios to to the council to consider to show what those look like for an impact fee. So those would be the proposed maximum. Again, this evening we're holding the public hearing to solicit comment or feedback based on those documents, which can be considered as part of the analysis. And then you have the option to adopt, modify, or reject the proposed impact fees. Again, you can adopt lower than that maximum or modify it to something lower than that maximum. You cannot adopt something higher than what's being proposed. And then again, any increase, there's a 90-day wait period before you can assess that. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. John, comments, or Stacy?
Yeah, so I could just share just a few more things, Mayor, council members. Let me just pull this up. So just to briefly go over this, the mayor and council, you've seen this before just recently, in fact, just last week. This right here is impact fee summary for all cities here in Utah County. There are 20 cities that are showing. These impact fees are based on a 10,000 square foot lot and a home that's worth $500,000. As you can see through here, if you take into account all of the fees for building costs, Springville right here, so this is more than just impact fees, is actually the 7th lowest on this list. As we switch over and look at just impact fees, Springville falls to the 11th lowest. And so Springville right here, as you compare all the different impact fees, is at $12,005 for again a 500,000 home, 500 of home valued at 500,000. And then if you look at park impact fees right now, we jump to the 13th lowest at 3,700. The highest is Highline. The other thing you see on here is the level of service. Springville's at 5 acres per 1,000 people, and you can kind of get a feel of where other people are in the county. So we would be the highest level of service in the county. It's not the highest in the state. The highest that I'm aware of is St. George at 5.7 acres. If you take the average of what you see here, you're roughly at 4.15 acres. If you do add the full maximum justifiable amount, it would kick us up to $16,951 over here on the overall impact fees. And then you can see what it would do to us on just the park impact fees. It would put us almost, just a little less than 3,000 above everybody else. In the way of recommendation, the PAR board recommendations were that the city should adopt the IFA as written. The city or the PAR board also wanted us to show the city council the information I just provided. They also wanted us to look at litigation, and then also they wanted the city to maintain the current level of service. In discussing the level of service, they said they liked Springville's awesomeness when it comes to parks, and they wanted us to maintain that awesomeness.
John, can you explain what you mean by wanted us to look at litigation?
Well, one of the things as you look at this here, once you start to see an impact fee that's way far above other impact fees, that's when you start to get yourself in a place that you're probably going to be challenged. And really the challenges probably won't come on a home here or there. It's going to come when somebody comes in and develops a large number of units, because they can recoup quite a bit if they can show that your impact fee is a little too high. Now we've had Fred, as you've heard from, and also Sam and his group. I think they've put together a good plan. I think it's pretty solid. I think that the maximum justifiable amounts are solid numbers. However, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to try to poke holes into it if you're high and you have somebody come in, a developer that's going to be doing a lot of units. I think we have a risk of entering into some kind of litigation over the fees. And then the staff's recommendation would be to increase the park's impact fee in steps, not just go from $3,700 up to $8,600 roughly, but maybe start at some place like 70%. You can see what that would be here. If you start at 70%, the maximum allowable impact fee, you would have $6,062.70 for a single-family home, and then you'd have $4,627.70 for a multifamily unit. And then review that every 90 to 180 days and see what other cities are doing right now. There are a lot of other cities looking at their impact fees, especially over the last year or two, and the increase in costs. It has cost a lot of cities more money to purchase and develop property. The other route you could go is if you wanted to reduce the level of service, then that also would reduce your impact fee if you were looking to reduce impact fees lower than the $8,600 that's been shown to you tonight.
John, so in this analysis earlier, it said that the impact fee would be somewhere between 122 to 133% if we took the full impact.
That is correct.
Of it. So, and then now we want to do 70% of the 122% to 133% increase.
Yeah, and that would be the numbers you see here.
Yeah, yes. So if we just did 50%, that would be like 61 to 66.5%. So what, you talk about litigation. When cities raise their fees, is there a percent of the fee that is raised that kind of has a red flag? Is it 60%? Is it 85%? Because the 70% is 85 to 93% of what people are paying right now. So that's pretty significant at 70% still.
No, I would not say that is a red flag for litigation.
Okay.
What a developer's looking for is they're trying to come in and build their home, build a nice home for as little money as possible, and also they're in the business of making money. And so what they're going to look at is where is it in line with the other impact fees is probably the first thing they're going to look at.
Yeah.
And so if you find yourself clear down here or up there, however you want to look at it, about 3,000 more than the next one, that's going to put you kind of in a target area.
Okay.
And again, it's probably not going to be somebody that comes in and builds 1 or 2 homes in Springville. It's going to be somebody that comes in and has a larger development.
Well, and then overall, the overall impact fees, it doesn't seem like it's really going to affect the overall impact fees because we're on the lower side.
That is correct.
Except we'll probably be looking at raising all of the impact fees by the end of
Right now,
the
it's
year.
planned within the next year to look at 4 more impact fees, if not more than that. But what they're looking at is with the high inflation and costs just going up over the last year or two, they're looking at are we in the ballpark with the right amounts to charge to make sure that new development is covering the impact that it has on the current system.
And the city's certainly experienced inflation over the last couple of years, but all the impact fees Mr. Penrod's talking about were just done less than 2 years ago. So the hope would be that's going to be far more in line with just a simple inflationary increase over the last 2 years. Now, inflation's high, but the hope certainly would be that construction growth hasn't been 40, 60, 100%, that it's more in line with 10, 15, 20 or less percent.
As far as the
So
fees?
what's the large driver? There's 2 things driving this. One is significant increase in construction costs over about 6 years since it was last looked at. And on top of that, the significant increase in land prices. And while there's some land component in, say, acquiring spaces for wells or for things like that, the vast majority of this is construction of pipelines for water, sewer, stormwater, and so forth. So you're really looking at construction inflation as opposed to the land growth inflation that we've seen.
Because we have a lot of the land.
Well, we have a lot of land, but when you look at the analysis here, our old impact fee, I think, was at $150,000 per acre for land. This one is suggesting $400,000 for land. So you're looking at well over a double.
Those numbers are a little bit off. The old one is right around $80,000 to $100,000 for land. This one's right around $250,000 for land. But when it comes
the construction,
to the construction is $400,000 per land.
Yeah.
And in the old one, the construction was right around $150,000 to $200,000. So both land prices have skyrocketed just over the last 2 to 3 years. I think we've all witnessed that and experienced that. And the cost of installing and building parks has also increased drastically.
John, based on what we've talked about,
in previous meetings. The PAR board vetted this quite thoroughly. We talked about it in work session. These other cities that are lower than us, or lower than would be, where if we adopted this, they are going to have to go through this same process. They can't maintain their level of service, even though it is lower than ours, at the same rate that they're doing it for the same reasons. So if we're looking at this on a comparison basis, we've got to be pretty careful, because these other cities are going to have to go through the same thing and raise their impact fees as well.
And I think that's what is built into the staff's recommendation, is to set a mark and then come back regularly every quarter to 6 months and increase it. Because I think you're right. I think you're going to see some of these other cities come up in the next 6 months to a year.
But if we did that, I'm assuming the recommendation is because of a matter of optics. I'm not really sure where the staff's recommendation is coming from on that. But even if we do set that at whatever percentage, 70% or whatever it might be, we're still the highest.
We still would be the highest.
We're still the highest. So I don't really, huh? For parks.
But not total impact.
For parks, but not total impact. Yeah, we're still the highest. So I don't feel really I don't feel like we're doing anything that we shouldn't be doing by going the full 100%, simply because we're going to be the highest anyway, and these other cities have got to reevaluate theirs as well.
Yeah, right now I haven't found one that is higher than Highland in the state.
But and I would say ours is not optics. I think from a lot of internal debate, what Mr. Penrod has recommended to me provides a lot of insight. Certainly costs are up. We don't know exactly how much they're up. As we do projects, we can carefully analyze that. I guess there's some skepticism on the staff side. We don't know exactly where some of those costs are going to land in park construction, and a lot of that depends upon what you put into it and how efficiently we can develop those parks. And so what this allows us to do, because of the maximum allowable fee being there, we're then able to say, okay, here's what this one cost. Do we need to adjust the fee to kind of match as the market moves? And to me, if we're really attentive to that, it allows the city to kind of give the best deal to the citizens and to the development community by carefully monitoring that. Our experts have to look at, well, there's so many factors involved in this that they're making a recommendation as to what it costs, but the market's moving. And as a result of that, if we're able to come back on a regular basis, 6 months or so, and do that, then you'll be able to look at the data and make the adjustments to 100% if and when the actual costs warrant that.
Okay.
And so that'd be somewhat the counter side to that. Certainly, if we have 100% now, as those monies come in, I think we're comfortable on the staff side that we can deliver park projects that match the master plan that the PAR board and has considered and likes, and hopefully you like as well.
So in terms of that percentage and the incrementing, you had a slide on there that showed that based on 400 units, 200 single family units and 200 multifamily units, we would be losing about $1 million.
That is correct.
By not adopting this. Is this $1 million that we're losing based on starting at 70% and incrementing, or not adopting it at all?
This is just based on 70% over a year.
Okay.
So that is one of the things.
So we would lose that $1 million over a year's time if we accept the 70%, and it'd be more if we went lower on the percentage.
Yes, and that is one of the things that the PAR board pointed out. So that's why I have that there.
These are 400 houses?
400 units.
400 units, yeah. So that's
200 single family, 200 multifamily.
Yeah, so how much is it bringing in? Just so we look at the other side of that. Do we need to do that math?
Yeah, I don't have that math in my
It's 6,000 what? 60 roughly. So, I mean, assuming they're kind of half and half, if we do 5,500 as an average fee,
yes,
times 400 units, 5,500 times 400 is 2.2 million. So the question is, do we think we can develop something approaching 6.5 or so acres of land into an acceptable park for $2.2 million. And kind of given, it's close, but given what we just did in Westfield Central at 5 acres, what was the construction price? Do you remember off the top of the head?
Oh, no, it was.
No,
two-
that one was a combined deal, so it's going to be hard
Right,
to
it has-
tell.
it- 'cause
But
it
we're
has the
about
land
one
component.
Yeah, well, the land component, but it's about 1.8, I would guess.
Right, so 1.8, let's say, for 5 acres. So but inflation's still happening. I mean, that's the gamble,
Exactly,
right? So is it
that's the
70,
gamble.
75, 80? Where's it at to do that? And it looks like Councilman Sorensen's been trying to get in.
When we had this presentation previously in the work session, I was concerned, and it sounds like heresy, but we are the richest in the entire county for park property per 1,000 people. And I don't really want to not continue to, I want to keep the same service, but at the same time, I'm kind of the opinion that starting at a 70% kind of addresses that without actually having to say we're going to drop that to 4.75 acres. Because that 5.14 is not written in stone. That's what has happened. I don't think we have an ordinance says we have to have 5.14 acres per 1,000.
No, right now, in the master plan that's before you tonight, would adopt a 5 acre per 1,000.
But again, that's a suggestion, isn't it?
To your point, though,
well-
you're doing exactly right. Is that you're saying we think we can do the 5 at a lower rate, and if we can't, we've lowered our level of service. That's what you've said.
That's correct.
I want to try to do the 5.14, but if not, we're still going to be ahead of everybody else. Well, maybe not, because they might rate. All the other arguments are true, but I think, and the other thing that persuades me to not go the full amount, even though the PAR board recommended it, is the option to increase it as we look at it, and the addition of other fees along the way in the next year or so. I think, and I can always justify it by saying, well, it's not the existing citizens that are paying it, but it's new families that are paying it. And it's almost glib to say, well, the prices of houses go up $5,000 a week, and they actually do go up that much. So to Mike's argument, it's probably not going to stop them from buying a house or building a house. You could justify it, but also I've met a lot of little couples that really cannot afford to buy a house, and to add another $2,000 or $3,000 on our part, if we don't really have to, if that even helps one person, I think it's pretty justifiable to get the increase coming with the option to look at it and raise it. That's personally how I feel about it, even though I certainly support keeping the level of services, but I think this gives us the option to kind of address it in a different way.
Yep.
Sorry, just one more comment. So does the staff have the ability to come to us within 90 days to rate, because it says the review or increase the impact fee then review or increase the impact fee every 90 to 180 days if we do the 70%.
Yes.
So do you have the ability to come to us again and decide if we want to raise it or keep it the same?
Yes.
Okay.
So the way that works is under state law, we'd have to give certain notices. We already have the studies done. We have the impact fee facilities plan. We have the impact fee analysis done. And so we could come back in 90 days and revisit this. Now, it wouldn't go into effect in 90 days because, again, you're always
Yours
90
on it,
days
yeah.
out for the actual effective date. And so it really, if we came back in and had something done in 90 days, it would be 180 days out before it happens. Just like tonight, whatever you approve tonight, it takes 90 days for it to kick in and be effective.
But we won't really be building parks within that time period, will we?
Well, right now
Will
we're
we?
building, we have
But-
one, two, we have
But
two
that's the
parks.
risk.
Yeah.
That really is the risk, because you're going to collect those, and we may not build it for 6 months or even 2 years after that. So what does it cost to build a park in 2024 with the money you're going to collect this December? That there's a real risk
Okay.
there.
So,
Okay, that makes
well, and to that point as well, we can hold these impact fees for 6 years, if I understand correctly. Is that right?
You have to expend them.
You have to expend them within 6 years from the date they're collected.
Yeah,
Correct?
so anything we collect today, we have to expend within the next 6 years.
Yeah, so, I mean, if we sit on the PAR board and we're looking forward to a long-range plan, which is what the mayor has commissioned us to do, without knowing how much money we have available or without understanding what's going to be coming in, that planning process is going to be pretty tough.
Well, not necessarily, because long-range plans are put into effect, and then as time goes by, we put those plans into effect. So the PAR board, from my understanding, will look at the long-range plan, but then it's up to Stacy and her group to carry out that plan.
Yeah, the plan you're putting in place says go develop 5 acres per 1,000 people. As 1,000 people come in, we should be looking to develop that 5 acres.
Sure.
Okay.
And the flip side of what Mike said is just that we just don't know what development's going to be. You know, if we go into recession, we might shut down to. So the only, I mean, I've just got a couple of concerns. I mean, I agree with the approach, and I think it's a great approach. The study was conducted, and we're rewriting this plan right at the peak of craziness, right? In terms of the economy, what might potentially be happening with rolling over, with inflation. I mean, I hope inflation's peaked. But the assumptions that they're building into this new plan are all based on today's numbers, right? And what's going on. And so that's really going to distort whatever's going to happen in the future. And there's no modeling that's going to be accurate, beyond a few months, honestly. I mean, Mayor's been through a bunch of this, so I'm sure his banking analysis and all the stuff he's worked on. So I'm all for the approach of saying, hey, let's approve the whole complete fee, but I'd say we start at even a lower point, like 50%, and then just be thoughtful about how we phase it in and see what happens in the economy, and just take more of a measured approach instead of just slamming this down right up front. I mean, Mike's right. I mean, it's not going to matter. We're going to be outliers regardless. I don't think that matters. I think we should too, and I do put this as a priority. But I just think we have to be more measured than just slamming on this huge increase. And so, that's an internal discussion. I mean, as you guys have said, so if we approve the full amount and say, well, hey, let's start at a lower, maybe starting point, if we review it more frequently or whatever the case may be. But I'm telling you, the economy is going to rapidly change here, probably for the worse over the next year. And so I'm just saying some of those assumptions, especially built around inflation and the cost of things, is going to change. And it's just tough to say we're going to project things out 6 years and potential expenses and build out this master plan without knowing what those are going to be. And it's impossible to know at this point. That's why I just think a more measured approach or implementation process, I think, is warranted.
Here's another little thought just to think about. If you adopt this, accept this, and you go with the staff's recommendation in 6 months or a year, if you come back and the whole world's blown up, you can lower your fees.
Yeah, but is it going to go that way? That's my question. It's like once you have it up there, it's not like you're going to come bring them back down.
Possibly so. The only problem is that if things continue on, you just get that much farther behind the curve. And you just have to think about that as to what it does for the park. So.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that also gives us, we're behind the curve, but then again, that might give us the ability to be more creative in how we spend money and how we develop our parks and what's important to our community, because things might change also with inflation of importance of what we feel is most important for our community. Because I noticed that the Parks and Rec was up there, the second highest, and then I think the second lowest was emergency preparedness. So that was pretty low. It might change. It could, just depending on what's going on. Oh, can I? And then one more thing, a mobile that's on the language of what we passed. It says a mobile home shall be charged a Parks and Recreation impact fee in the amount of $4,600. So can you kind of explain? Do we have some more mobile homes, or is that just something that you had to explain in this?
Yes, I don't believe
document.
There will be any more mobile homes in Springville for a while. I could be wrong on that.
Okay.
But that was part of the impact fee analysis, so it is put in there. And in fact, we have an ordinance, depending on what happens tonight, that also addresses accessory dwelling units.
That was my next question on that.
In the impact fee analysis, it talks about accessory dwelling units being the same as a multi-family unit, and so they would pay the same as a multi-family unit.
Okay, but hasn't the previous owner of the lot already paid impact fees on the structure that is already there, they don't get any kind of a break for having a,
So the
because they probably already paid some.
Yeah, we don't
fees.
have, I don't
No?
have Fred's table handy, but the impact fee is based on a per capita amount. And so the idea is if you have a single-family home and you have a family in there, and then you also have an accessory dwelling unit, you're going to have more people in that structure. And so you're going to have 2 units, more people, and that's why you would charge more impact fee, is because it's based on a per capita amount.
Okay. Thanks, John.
Okay, good discussion. We need a public hearing, is that correct? Okay. We'll open the floor for public comment. Would anyone like to make a comment from the public?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, a second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we've had our discussion and we've had a opportunity for public hearing. The floor is open for a motion.
Can I just ask a question about the motion?
Please.
So, is this, John, and amending the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, the amending part, is that going to 70%? Or what are we doing with this motion, I guess, is?
Well, it's up to you. Right now, in the impact fee that was placed in the library and noticed through the state website, it has the maximum amount in there.
Okay.
And so we do have another impact fee based upon the conversation the council had last week in the work session that would be at 70%, but we can change that to anything that you want us to change it to very quickly. I could just run upstairs and basically put in some new numbers.
I was just wondering what that terminology amending was intended to be for.
Well, the reason why we have amending in the motion is because we have a current impact fee, we have a current master plan.
So we're amending that.
We're amending the new one. So once it goes into effect, the old impact fee is dropped off.
So sorry, I'm still kind of slow. So the 70% is built into this, or we can just administratively change that to whatever once we approve this tonight?
Yes, once you give us direction what you want to do, then we can change the ordinance.
At any
accordingly.
point.
And you want that as part of the motion, the whatever percentage.
We need to have the actual ordinance with the number in it before we have a
For
final vote.
for the current.
Yeah.
We may accept this, the impact fee facility plan, and that we direct the staff to put it at 70% or 50%
Yes.
or whatever we choose to.
And we need to have that language in the ordinance before you vote on it.
So tonight, we do this motion the way it is, and later, when we...
No. So what we need from you...
We need to discuss.
Yeah, so I apologize.
We need to discuss and send John out to change it if we want to change it before we vote on it.
He has prepared currently a full implementation and a 70%. If you choose something different, we just need a couple of minutes
Yes.
to fix it.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion.
Got it.
So the motion on the paper is at 100%.
That is correct.
Yep.
Oh.
But we can change that
But you can change that. That's
before we vote.
You can do anything you want right now, except adjourn.
Well, I think that it's obvious from our conversations that there's a little disparity from 50% to 100%. And I think between the four of us, we need to kind of decide what we want to do.
Well, let me just, because I'm the 100% guy.
Yeah.
Let me just address that, and I appreciate the clarification that Troy and John gave on where that staff recommendation is coming from and the discussion that we've had. So, in the spirit of compromise, I'm okay with going to 70%, just because of that clarification, so. I'm at 70%.
I've always felt good about 70%, but I need to hear, if that.
Well, okay, Jason, I heard that you were, it seemed like you were okay with 50% going forward. And I have been vacillating between 50 and 70% all week.
The reason I'm just saying 50, I'm just thinking it's better to take a cautionary approach, and we can adjust it up quickly if we need to. It can be quicker than, quarterly. I understand we have the wait period, but I just, it's not gonna make that big of a difference. So I just thought, why not start slow? But you're right. I mean, if costs continue to escalate or perpetuate the way they are, then, Mayor's correct and Mike's correct, and we're gonna continue to get further in the hole, deeper in the hole. I like Chris's notion of the fact that, the LOS kind of drifts down over time. Again, I appreciate all the work the PAR board has done and that Mike and Chris have put into this. I know there's been a great deal of work, and I appreciate their diligence on this. I just want to be measured. I think we're tackling this thing at exactly the wrong time. Unfortunately, I'm not saying that's anybody's fault.
Should have been done a couple years
Yeah,
ago.
I'm just saying this is the way it is because the economy's whack right now.
By the way, just so you know, Troy and I have worked on a schedule to where this will come up routinely, so that all these impact fees and these things, that this happens on a regular basis, so we don't get behind 8 years or 6 years. And
Right.
all of a sudden have a whoa.
And that's the problem, right?
Right.
Is the timing. It's all about timing.
Well, yeah, the timing and is what's crazy too is you look at this and we did it 7 years ago, and this plan is supposed to last for 10 years. Well, we all know that if this one didn't even last 7 years, it's not going to be 10 years, and then we decide from where we're at, it still will be behind again in 10 at the point of 10 years.
You really need to look at it every year, every year.
Yeah.
So.
So, well, and the other thing that I was nervous about too is just that, we are government officials and trying to help our community, but yet, as inflation, as we see the hyperinflation, it's just the timing is just so nerve-wracking.
Yep, totally agree.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, the inflation is the reason why we're doing it, really. If it had stayed the same, we wouldn't even have to be tackling it. We could kept the same service level with the same impact fee we were charging. And I don't think there's anybody out there providing services or materials or land or property that are not at least trying to match inflation, but it is crazy. And the thing with ours is we're matching the inflation of many years, and that's the hard part. So, I'm good with 70%. I guess if we had to meet it further down, but I think that keeps us still not the highest. Do you have that chart again where that puts us?
It would,
as far as total impact fees in the county, with the 70% added. It puts us in the top five.
For the parks, we're off the.
Well, on the par, we're still the parks.
We're put up into, I think, the top 4 or 5 combined. But that's before we've done the other increases. Yeah.
And again, we know the other cities have got to be addressing it.
Yeah,
They do. They've got to. They'll be going up.
And truthfully, I'm not trying to start, a big debate. It's.
No, it's.
If you're talking 10 or 20% difference on 400, it's not going to be this big of a difference, right? It's, I don't know. I'm not trying to fall on the sword.
You're not.
It's
good.
So.
Well, I don't want to.
Yeah, but I appreciate your.
Okay.
That's with.
So the one on the left is all park impact fees together. One on the right is are all impact fees.
Now.
And the one on the right is park impact fees.
But with the 70%.
No, the 70. No,
currently.
this right here is just current.
So you add. How much would we add at 70%?
Look at the bottom
70%
box.
you would add.
Oh, 8.6. Okay.
So it would be adding about $6,000 to the park impact fee.
So we would then go to
impact fees
16.
Well, we wouldn't add a total of
No,
6.
not
We
to
already have
add.
3,700 in there, so
Right.
we would add roughly 3,000. So it would be up around this number right here.
For total.
Yeah.
But would still be the highest for parks at 70%.
And it's quite interesting if you look at the comparison for each of the cities. Parks and Recreation has turned into be one of the major impact fees, if not the impact fee that you find in all the cities. Quite
Yes.
interesting to
If
me.
you look right here
Yeah,
at this
big
line,
driver.
it's typically the highest one
Yeah, you just look at all of them, and that's
right through there.
Well, I think another thing to keep in mind is that impact fees, as I understand them, can't be used on existing parks.
correct.
They have to. So that kind of makes me feel a little bit better about, I mean, it might free up money that we can now use for the existing parks instead of having to,
Yes,
create.
they refer to
Maintain
that
level
as
of service.
deficiency. So if you have a playground, for instance, that needs to be replaced, that's a deficiency.
Oh, you
And
can-
Impact fees cannot go towards replacing that playground. It can only go to new development that based on the impact of new development. So new structures, new infrastructure.
And again, we do have, of course, I know it's built on the actual real scenario of what Springville is, but we do have a bank of property that a lot of cities don't have at this point.
Yes.
So we don't have to purchase to get at least to 2030.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I'm open for a motion on whatever way you want to go here.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance numbers 05-2022 at 70% of the maximum allowable, which I believe is 8661 and change.
That's the maximum.
That's the maximum.
Right. So So the motion is to adopt that at 70% of the maximum, with the ability to go back and look at it on a regular basis.
Because I don't think we can make the motion until we have the ordinance in front of us, from what he said earlier. So how do we decide to bring that one down if we don't vote?
Well, they have it written at 70, and if we say, no, we don't want 70, we want
It'll be the
80 or
50, then they have
30,
to go.
then they'll go upstairs and
Okay.
rewrite it.
Okay.
We have one for 70 right here.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have Mike read that?
Well, yes, if you want to. I'm just
Yeah, I
gonna
can.
get that section up.
Not the whole ordinance.
Yes.
Just the motion.
Yeah. Well, if you just want to adopt this ordinance that's here before you, what we have is the city hereby adopts a park and recreation impact fee in the amount of $6,062.70 for each single-family dwelling and $4,627.70 for each dwelling unit in a multifamily building. We also have that for a mobile home, the impact fee would be $4,627.70, and for an accessory dwelling unit would be $4,627.70.
And all those figures are at the 70% level, correct? Okay.
I'm good. I'll go with it, whatever. 70's good.
Okay. So that puts us at $6,611 per dwelling unit in no, that's the maximum. So we're going down to the 70%. So the motion is to adopt the $6,062.70 for each single-family dwelling, and $4,627.70 for each dwelling unit in a multifamily building, for the purposes of this ordinance. And
Then
there's a mobile home.
So if you look down at C, 6C.
And a mobile home shall be charged a Parks and Recreation impact fee in the amount of $4,627.70. To adopt this of the Parks and Trails Master Plan, wrong line. To adopt, enact, and amend the Springville City Parks, Recreation, Trails, and Open Space Master Plan, the Impact Fee Facilities Plan, and the Impact Fee Analysis, Parks and Recreation, and the Parks and Recreation Impact Fee.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a question on the motion.
You should, not a question.
We need a second first.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second it.
Okay, question on the motion?
Well, just a comment. I mean, we could discuss the motion, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, just to, I mean, I'm on board with this, that's great, but I'm not gonna be a pushover as far as more increases. Just wanted to say that.
Okay.
So, anyway, we got a
All right.
second.
Okay, then that's a roll call vote. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Ms. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Snelson?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Okay, the last item, and then we do have a closed session very shortly for a short meeting. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, great. Item number 9. Now, let me tell you just, this is the property that's located west of the solid transfer station. that's probably not the right terminology, but Love's truck that we're down talking in relationship to annexation. And Jared Morgan and I, he's here in the audience, he and I had a conversation, and I thought there was an interesting thing that I just wanted to lay out and see what comments or questions or thoughts you had in relationship to the annexation, just what your thoughts were. And if there are no thoughts, just to give you a chance to think about it, so the next time we meet, we might be able to bring it up and talk about what it is that motivates us, not motivates us in relationship to the property. We're trying to just formulate, and we're in the process of doing a study so the city knows and the company that he works for knows in relationship to what it takes monetarily to do the things that we have talked about doing. So if you don't have any comment, it's okay. I'm just wanting to bring it up and at least have the opportunity for people to express it if they did so.
I'm glad you're keeping this in front of us. I mean, really, he understands our position, just like we do, which is, we're trying to make sure we do what's right by the citizens. And so ultimately it's a cost-benefit analysis. Is what they're bringing in and proposing going to offset the cost of infrastructure and the other things that we're going to have to bring to the table to make this happen, and how those things balance out. And so until we see those costs and see the study or the results of the study or some of the detail behind that, it's going to be tough to say, hey, yeah, it's something, at least from my opinion, something I'm for or against, until we see some more of that information.
Good, thank you. Other thoughts?
Well, I've always felt I hated the thoughts of just surrendering our declaration area of our city just on a whim. Not a whim, but, just a first glance. That's kind of what it felt like. And boy, I think even though we discuss, I don't think we really can really know what the potential tax impact is because of just this development. There's other things that could come along there, and it sounds like, on the Spanish Fork side, it's going to not just be industrial warehouse. There's going to be stuff coming, and I think we really need to see what it is actually going to cost, and then if there's any way on earth we can pull it off, I think we should, try to make it work.
That's a great comment by Chris. I'd also, and I agree with that fully, but also I really appreciate the collaborative approach. Of course we'd love to work with, the company and with all the goodwill that they've had in the community and the good things they've done in the community. Of course we want to, that would be the ideal, would be able to bring you in and make something happen. And it sounds like you're willing to collaborate and work and make things, in joint
Actually,
effort with us.
Councilmember Miller, we've worked together. Obviously, time is of interest to the developer.
Yes.
They've retained a consultant to start already on that study. We've, at our request, they willingly expanded the area of that study to include the entire remaining annexation declaration area that's in place. We've agreed to participate within the authority I have. We'll have more discussions on that budget-wise in the future year. But yeah, absolutely, it's been cooperative. They've been very helpful in doing it. We've got a broad-ranging study on the underground utilities. Staff will have to do a little bit of work on power and transportation, but I think that's well within our ability to accomplish in the time frame. So this could come back in less than a couple of months, hopefully, right?
Troy, are extension line agreements still a viable option?
They are. It is in the code, so yes, they are a viable option. They're still out there. We have largely switched that over to an impact fee driven approach. In this area, though, because the impact fees do not contemplate that area, an extension fee agreement may be actually a good option.
I hope we consider that, because it could be the way to make it work.
How much acreage is there in that annexation section?
We haven't gone back to add it up.
How much was it, Jared? We guessed.
We were guessing about 1,000, right? So about 1,000 acres, and we could probably add them up pretty quickly. This is the. Yeah, that's what I was going to do. So we have 200 acres there. I think it's 120 there. 160. 100, somebody adding this up, 150.
Use the measurement too.
Oh, yeah, we could do that. But that's probably closer to
So it's
800
pretty close.
acres, something like that. But we can do a measurement while you're talking. I'll just do it up here.
And Jared, how much of that acreage do you have any idea how much of that you'll consume?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm Jared Morgan with GWC Capital. We're currently under contract to purchase 320 acres.
That's big.
And
I know we're still measuring. Somewhere in that area.
Are currently under contract to purchase 320 acres with talks with adjacent landowners for an additional 240. So our industrial park expansion is looking, closer to the 500 to 600 acre.
And what is the gap between existing services from the new West Side development to your property?
There's gaps with all different utility types, right? And so the feasibility study that Hanson Allen Luce will be producing for us will
That answer.
Yeah, we'll go in depth into answering that. But again, we've expanded the scope to capture the entire annexation declaration area. So
Nothing other than power reaches the end of the city limits at this point.
yeah,
Yeah, what's that? Yeah, powers, you don't have a big, huge distribution out there.
yeah. It's about a 4 to 6 week process. We have not filed the annexation application with the city yet, but we intend to do that. We wanted to get kind of through the process of understanding the work scope, which we've now done, and we've signed the proposal from Hanson Allen Luce for the feasibility study. So that's underway, and I think in general we're wanting to better understand the metric, the decision metric that we're all going to try and use together, right, to figure out whether this is going to work for you or for us. Trying to look at the analytics of it, also the political nature of it. There's emotional, decisions being made here too. So understanding what the metric is really important, and that was the premise of my discussion with the mayor the other day, was help us define that as we go through this process, because that'll be really important for us. So appreciate the time and appreciate the collaborative effort. Troy and his team have been great. So we'll continue to press forward, and as data comes through, we'll be working with you on the decision. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming in, and I think you've heard some very helpful things. At least for me, it has been. I think it has been for you too. So
it has, yeah. I had asked the mayor if I could, if it was appropriate to just understand from each of you what your vision is with the area. So I'll likely be reaching out to you and individually, and just getting to know you a little bit better, and just asking you a couple questions about your feelings of the area in general. So.
And I said to Jared, I said, don't sell anything. Just answer questions, get to know. And I've known Jared for 10, 12, 15 years. And he's very much that way, just pretty easy go. He's not a salesman. No, he's not a salesman. But I think his questions are very legitimate. And I said, they are open. You'll find them to be very wonderful people just in a conversation, and they'll tell you what's on their mind, and just get to do that. But just don't try to sell anything, because they don't know all the dynamics at all. But there'll come a time in which we do. And what I think you heard here is there's a lot of analytics go in here, except not as much emotion as some people think there is. Mm-hmm. That they'll just analyze the numbers and use that to help them kind of direct them a little bit. So I think, anyway,
yeah.
Thank you.
No, thanks so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Couldn't they just set up rooftop solar, Leon, and be independent? They could be off the grid. Hey, they're in the lake.
Okay,
Turbines.
I need a motion to adjourn this meeting and to enter into a closed session for
Property.
property. Okay.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting and to convene a closed session for property discussions. When that's concluded, we will, what do I have to do?
Just stand adjourned.
Then we'll stand adjourned.
Okay, I got a motion.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? What? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Snelson?
Yes.
Mr. Jason?
Yes.
Jared. Sorry. Miss Liz?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Tears. Too many J's. Do you know my son?